Great. So 10 o'clock, here we are. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time joining us this morning. Obviously, today is all about AI, and we're here to make sure that you can understand how it can work better for you and how you can get started. So without further ado, the first question. Nick, next slide, please. And we're starting off with, is your organization harnessing the power of AI and ChatGPT type tech? Certainly every business leader wants to, and we see rapid adoption and huge demand. But what can it do for you? And today we're here to help you get started. So I'd love to start off with a quick poll, actually, if you don't mind. So thinking about kind of why we're here today, that should just pop up on your screen now. But how engaged is your organization with leveraging AI? Not engaged at all, exploring options, starting implementation, or actively using AI in multiple areas. So please do share, and then we'll kind of promote those results just shortly so you can see where we're all at today. But whilst we think about that question and sort of respond, let me introduce you to your speakers today. So over to you, Hels.
Hello, everybody. That's me in that circle there. I founded Data Cubed nearly 7 years ago. We're a global data and AI consultancy. So we've been working in this space for a long time now, and we've done lots of projects for many clients, both in the UK and globally. And my little tagline there that I, for those of you who've talked to me on LinkedIn is, if you're in data hell, I am data hells. And I wrote that book at the bottom there during COVID called The Data Escalator. So great to meet you all and be with you today.
Awesome. And yourself, Nick?
And I am Nick Merry. I'm the Product and Partnerships Director at Data Cubed. I've been working with Hels for a couple of years now, looking after product and proposition development primarily, but also how we engage with the market. My background is everything from massive businesses all the way through to startups, but it's always had a customer centricity based around data. So that's me.
Awesome. And I'm Helen, so I lead the marketing here and here to be your question master today. Great. So just to sort of like highlight to everybody that has been new to us or been sort of a friendly face here today, but we're Data Cubed. So we are founded 7 years ago, like Hel said, and ever since been busy helping our clients with their AI and data transformations. So without further ado, let's just complete this poll and see where we're all at. So I share the results so you can all see. So fairly balanced, actually.
Yeah, a bit of a mixed bag, actually. Yeah, fairly even.
Great. That's good to see. So without further ado, let's jump into the headlines and as to why it's all so important we're here today. Over to you, Nick.
Okay, thank you very much, Helen. A couple of headlines, a couple of stats for you. 76% of businesses are struggling to scale AI. And that's no surprise because it's very new technology, relatively speaking. It has been around for some time, but in terms of mass adoption, 2023 was the breakout year, as we all know. But 86% of UK execs, this is polled by Accenture, believe that AI will compel them to re-architect their technology within their business. So having technology that is grounded for the benefit, to realize the benefits that AI can bring to those organizations will need some adjustments, which is interesting because we have seen other statistics that also say it's about 80% of businesses are just not ready with their data at all, let alone in relation to AI. But AI, as we know, has exploded, and without a doubt, if I had a crystal ball, I'd be able to tell this for sure. But I'm 99% sure it is here to stay. And if we look over the last few years, there have been some notable tech transformation points. So we have the dot-com boom. We have smart technology in around about 2006 with the launch of the iPhone. Then we have cloud-based technology in the sort of early sort of 2010 to 12, that sort of era, where everything sort of lifted up into the cloud and sort of SaaS platforms were born. It is sort of well documented that this period we're in now is this explosion of AI. But where businesses are struggling is to work out how they can apply it to their own organization. So it is full of opportunity if it's harnessed correctly. But it does have the ability to level a playing field, but it also has the ability to push it further apart if it's not done correctly. And there was an event I went to a few weeks ago, and I forget the person's name, so apologies for whoever said this, but AI has the ability to help 8 billion people globally rather than 8 billionaires, which we as a society have to help navigate. So, but SMEs can adopt it, and it has the ability to give them the advantage and give them the ability to level the playing field with the enterprise level organizations. And what we have here on this slide is just an illustration of how you can use a ChatGPT style, what we've called data interrogator. It allows you to be able to tap into all your data if it's set up correctly. You can literally have it in your pocket on your smartphone. You'd be able to access all the information you need to access to do your job really, really well whenever you want to. And we have an example here. So this is something that we've built. We've taken the OpenAI from ChatGPT, and we've essentially implanted it in behind a security wall to analyze data. And this is just a quick video that shows you how it could work. So by taking sort of open source technologies available, you drop them behind the organization's security walls. You can use AI to interrogate both structured data within such a data warehouse, for example. So structured being it's looking at cells of information, or it can be unstructured data, which could be like a PDF. And either way, you can interrogate this information to glean insight from it. But the beauty of it is you don't need to be a data analyst to do this. Anybody can do this. So all of a sudden, the democratization of data starts to come to the fore. I'll just move on from there. So just to take a step back for a second. So if you imagine yourself stepping into your office on any day, Monday morning, you sip your coffee, your AI system presents to you with an optimized agenda for the week. It's tailored not only to your schedule, but also to your energy levels and your work habits, and that's predicted from your past patterns. It's optimized for you. Your inbox is already sorted, and the most crucial emails are highlighted. These are very basic things that AI can do to help transform how a business can work. And it's how it's plugged into everything behind the scenes that enables it to thrive, enables you to thrive. It enables you to be on your absolute A game every day of the week without being absolutely exhausted at the same time. And we have to consider sort of how organizations can adopt AI. You need to consider what it is that you want to get out of it. What's your dream outcomes? So for example, here we've got, so do you want innovation to be within your daily routine? Do you want continuous learning to make sure you stay relevant? You want to make positive social change? Whatever the dream outcome is for you, that is the starting point for you to then work backwards on how an AI can be organized around your data. So if you've got any thoughts on what your dream outcomes, please pop them into the chat, because it's really good to share. The problem that we all have is trying to understand new technologies and how they can be applied to our own situations. So sharing ideas and thoughts is what this session is all about. And there are many advantages to what AI can do for an organization, but at its most basic level, we can look at automation. And this shouldn't be confused with replacing human beings. So if you read the press, you'd be the press scaremonger, and I think the press have got a job to do to actually start to highlight some of the upsides of what AI can do, as well as the downsides. My personal belief is I don't think that AI is going to replace human beings for quite some time. What it is going to do, as I said just a moment ago, is put you on your A game the whole time. So it's like a supercharged you doing your job, and that can be applied to everybody in your business. So it boosts productivity. Anyway, so at a more basic level, at automation, there are lots of manual tasks that people can stop doing, and so they can focus on their more progressive elements of their jobs. And by focusing on the more progressive elements of their jobs, they have the ability to help grow the organization, which moves on to growth. And that is about helping organizations expand to be more relevant to the audience, identifying insight, identifying new markets. And then finally onto sort of the more advantage element of AI once everything is flying. And this is about innovating through your data. This is about monetizing your data and providing services to your organization, to your customers, to your customer base that can leverage your own data as an asset. And as I said, it's AI can essentially unleash the value of the data that you have within your organization. And we all know that data is a massive thing, and a stat that an anecdote that I've been told a number of times is there's more bytes of data on this planet than there are grains of sand. And I don't quite know how they know how many grains of sand there are on this planet, but the point is there is a lot, and that data tends to sit within organizations. So every organization has a latent value in their data, and AI can help unleash it. It can boost productivity, it can boost innovation, and it doesn't have to any longer be in the realm of the data analysts. We can all be data analysts because we just simply ask our data what it is we want to know at any point in time. But it can unleash the value of our data to democratize what we refer to as democratizing knowledge. And I think this is one of the massive benefits that AI can bring. It can allow everybody with access to benefit from that knowledge to do their job really well. So quote here by somebody called Robert Boyce: knowledge is power, knowledge shared is power multiplied. So if you think about installing a generative AI sort of data interrogator within your organization, you can give everyone that superpower of the combined organizational knowledge. It'd just be literally sitting in your pocket at any time. Instant access to insight, not just for the analysts, as I've mentioned. You can make faster decisions rather than having to wait for an analyst to produce something. Don't get me wrong, there is still an absolute role for analysts. It sounds like I'm saying that this is a replacement for analysts. That is absolutely not the case. This is about quick questions, quick insight, quick knowledge for anybody so they can make a decision. Analysts will continue to go deep on crunching the data to pull more acute things out. We can make more informed decisions, and to be a data-led organization, using or basing your decisions upon the knowledge you have, the data that you have, is going to give you greater confidence levels on what it is you want to achieve. So imagine your team with no barriers to insight. They simply ask what they want to know using everyday language. So there's no coding involved. It's simply just ask. But another example would be removing sort of operational backlog. So installing a generative AI into something like an HR help desk, where you could apply it to an IT help desk at the same time. But some statistics I read, and I actually asked ChatGPT this. Hopefully it's correct. But typically about 50 to 80% of all HR tickets across businesses are common queries. So these are queries such as, how much holiday do I have left? or what are the terms of my employment? When's my next annual review? Things like that, basic things like that. That every time a ticket is raised with an HR department, somebody has to go away, look in the system, pull that information out, and then go and respond to that person. Those sorts of things can be just automated, really, really easy. If the generative AI data interrogator is pointed at an HR system within an organization, it can just do it. And that allows the HR employees to focus on the complex tasks, the things that they probably enjoy doing a lot more than the mundane. So imagine your business operations where common and repetitive help desk queries are just handled instantly. There's no lag time. If you wanted to know how much holiday you have left, you can find out right this second rather than have to wait half a day to find out or a day to find out. And at the opposite end of the spectrum, so AI can protect your organization. So using a generative AI data interrogator to enhance cybersecurity to mitigate risk in real time. So in the current state of political affairs in the world today, cybersecurity is at the top of a lot of people's agendas. And actually, it's estimated that in 2024, the spend by organizations on cybersecurity is probably going to be about fourfold that of AI. And given that there's been a mass explosion of AI, that's saying something. So what it can do for you, you can have a live analysis of all the sort of network traffic coming in and out of your organization to spot any sort of illicit behavior. You can identify abnormal behaviors in real time, flag threats, risk assess instantly, and it enables a swift response to any threat, and it minimizes disruption. So this is about protecting your organization, your assets from breaches. And so AI has so much potential to improve how our organizations operate and how we live our lives. But the same technology can be applied for by malicious actors. So this is about being prepared. But getting the infrastructure, your architecture behind the scenes set up so you can plug a data interrogator in is what this opportunity is all about. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to show you some perspectives. So the questions that we get asked as an organization is, how can I benefit from it? And they don't mean in a selfish way. It's like, how can I benefit from this within my role? And this is something that we've built using OpenAI and as I sort of mentioned or alluded to earlier on, we've taken the technology and we've plugged it into systems behind the scenes, and we're querying information. We're experimenting. Everybody's experimenting, but these are some sort of case studies, if you will, not case studies. These are some examples and perspectives of how a data interrogator can be used for different roles. Please use the chat if you've got any thoughts on how you could see some of this technology being used at a very basic level or complex level within your day-to-day job. It would be really interesting to hear, because as I said earlier, this is about helping ground this technology to help everybody understand how it can be utilized. So here in this example, we have sorry, give me 1 second. I'm just going to close my blind. The sun has popped out, which is lovely. But okay, so we've got the Chief Operating Officer here. They've plugged it in. They're typing away. They're asking. If you've used ChatGPT, it's exactly the same sort of functionality. Asking key things of their data to find out what's been happening within their team. So there's no need to wait for a report. You just need to ask the questions. How billable was Adam in January? And the data interrogator pops out an answer. There we go, 70% billable. Well done, Adam. Okay, moving on to a chief executive. So I guess as what I said earlier on is don't think about what the interface looks like. This is just experimentation, and it's all about what it's plugged into behind the scenes. So how many sales have we made in 2024? And if it's plugged into the right information, out pops the right answers. Chief Financial Officer in this example is pointed at department budgets and spend. It's asking what departments are over budget. What do you think it would be? Marketing. It's always marketing, isn't it? And then, oh, there we go. Now we've got the marketing opinion. So why am I over budget? Maybe they're asking. But no, I think they're asking about their best performing channels. But as I said, it's all about the information that's under the hood, as we say. So it's what it's plugged into, and making sure that that data is in a well architected, in a good condition, good quality. It doesn't have to be complete. It's not about being absolute perfection. That's not what you need. But you need to have certain information needs to be of the right quality. Certain information needs to just provide a sample size. Okay, Chief Technology Officer. So, we talked earlier on about the two different types of data. So there's structured data. So these are data sets that sit within a data warehouse, and then there's unstructured data that could sit within a wider sort of data lake, such as a sort of insight repository. So if you had a filing system where you just dropped a whole load of reports from various bodies that are relevant to your organization, your industry, your data interrogator, your generative AI can query those and can connect the dots as well. So it's not just looking at one document, it can look at multiple documents and come to conclusions.
Yeah, and we've got lots of kind of C-suite people on the call today, and I'm sure many of you have asked these types of questions to your teams, right? As of we, haven't we, Nick? And it can take days, weeks messing around with loads of spreadsheets. That's our norm, isn't it, for most of us in organizations?
Yes, I mean, I guess the classic example would be sitting around the leadership table or the board table, and you're asked to make a decision, but the data that you have is not complete, or you've got part of the story. So you either stop the board meeting, go and ask a data analyst, come back in 3 days' time, and then make the decision, or you just ask your data interrogator, and off you go.
This is how it should be.
Yes. But the other side of the spectrum is not just about what you can do with it. It's about what you could do for your audience, your clients, your customers. So obviously we have there's a beta business to consumer world, and there's a business to business world. So I've just taken a business to business world example here, but it is possible to provide this technology as an advantage to your audience, to give you competitive advantage. It can not only add value to them, but it can also create efficiencies for you. So, so questions or queries that might be regular queries. Let's say you're an accountancy firm, and you want your customers want some queries, some data points on a regular basis. Obviously, there is a relationship building, and that's a different side of things. But for those regular queries, you could give your clients a data interrogator interface that can plug straight into their data, and they can query everything that they need to know. So it has the ability to help you monetize your own data, which is a really important point. But we've talked about what it can do for you and what it can do for your clients, and some scenarios. But as we did say, that there is, it's all down to the data behind the scenes that's going to make it work. So, for example, what do you need for to make this work? What do you need to make it this successful? So, without getting too technical, there's data relationships. So, any kind of AI algorithm is going to need to be able to join data together to answer more complex questions or analyze requests. So this means that the relationships between those data needs to be well defined. So that is a job for a data architect, and ensuring that the data quality is where it needs to be. But there's the continuing on the theme with quality, you need to be able to trust your data. So if you want to be able to answer business questions using the data, you have to be able to trust it. Without a strong foundation in data quality, there is no AI that will work. It will give you misguided responses. So it could be just flat wrong, or it could be biased. And there's a lot of talk in the market about AI bias, and a sort of a more, I guess, society example would be with social media, where everybody puts in their best selves in social media, and that's not necessarily truth. It might be a version of the truth, but it's not the exact truth. And so if an AI was pointed at those social medias, then it would come to the conclusion on people's needs and wants and desires that weren't necessarily accurate. It'd probably think that everybody is super well off and's got the most beautiful house, and every child is perfect in this world. But I know from example, parents' evening last night, that not every child is perfect in this world, not in every way anyway. And then data availability. So, start with business logic. So, algorithms can be complex and sophisticated, but they aren't magic. They are. It is an algorithm. It is code. It's essentially mathematics. So it doesn't inherently know your business, and it doesn't inherently know what KPIs you are interested in. So these need to be defined through your business logic, through data logic. And this providing this information to your AI is all about training the data, and so it is delivering what it is that you want it to deliver. And availability of data. So I mentioned the volume of bytes of data available in this world to the equivalent of grains of sand, but there is a lot of data out there. It needs to be structured correctly, and it needs to be stored correctly within your organization. And in some areas, you might want to enrich that data. You might have to go external to get some additional information that can complete that picture. Think about painting by numbers. Maybe 2, 3, and 5 are a certain blue that you haven't got, and you need to go and get that blue. So it is about completing that picture. And making sure it is in a good state of affairs. We talked about security as a case study of how to use your AI, but it's also important that your data is secure for AI to work correctly. So you can take the OpenAI structure of the product, you can put it behind your security walls. You might want to have the ability to still suck additional information into your organization, but you won't want to be able, well, you might, but I very much doubt you will want to be able to pass information from your organization into the big wide world. So it is the technology is all there. It can absolutely be done, and it is the most common way of doing this. So it just needs to be considered. And we did talk about architecture a little bit, data architecture this is. And so this sits within the sort of the general technology foundations that organizations need to ensure is sound. And the statistic right at the very beginning of this webinar, around 86% of UK execs believe they need to re-architect their technology in order to deliver AI. So it sounds drastic. It's not as drastic as it sounds, but it does need to be structured in the right way. And there are plenty of tools out there. So this isn't something that you need to build from the bottom up. There are plenty of tools out there that can help you. And we actually put all this into something, if any of you are familiar with us at DataCube, that we have an assessment called the Data Maturity Score, which basically looks at our 6 pillars of data maturity and assesses organizations on where their strengths and weaknesses are. And it helps paint the picture of where you need to start to look in order to get yourself AI ready. And there are, as I said, there's 6 of them. There's 3 what we say are tech-driven pillars, so architecture, quality, and analytics. And then there are 3 human-driven pillars, which is risk management, governance, and analytics. Oh, I've said analytics twice, and culture. Governance, super important. Having good governance within your organization ensures everything is secure. It ensures quality is maintained. And by maintaining quality, the output of your AI is going to be much sounder. You can get that at www.datamaturity.score.com if you're interested, and we'll share it later on as well. So that is a whole bunch of load of information on use on how it could be used within your organization, some scenarios, how it can help you in your roles, how it can help your customers in their roles, and some basic information about what it is you need to sort of get organized underneath the hood. But probably the question you're asking is, where do you start? So yes, you could start with a data maturity score, but Hels is going to talk through a logical approach to getting yourself off the ground and helping you understand what those first steps should be. So over to you, Hels.
Thanks, Nick. So yeah, so we've kind of shared lots of examples with you, but we want you to walk away with some practical first steps you can make as well, rather than just kind of sell you the dream. So we've got a 5-stage process to creating an AI strategy and creating your first AI prototype or AI tool. And we've got these five steps in front of us. And what we're going to do is go through each one and help you work out how to get started and go from there. So let's start with number 1, design. This is all about making a plan and creating a simple AI strategy. So the first thing to think about is what's the end goal? You know, are you using AI to make more money or acquire more customers? Is it about cost saving, efficiency? Is it about improving customer service? Or a lot of our clients we talk to at the moment, it's more of a PR opportunity, right? You know, sometimes, and let's just be honest about it, it's something that we can put out in a press release. We can tell our customers we're the first one in our markets to do something with AI. Whatever reason it is, none of these reasons are good or bad. Just be clear on them and map that out from the beginning so that everyone knows what you're trying to achieve.
Just to jump in there,
Next one is,
so very, very quickly, one of the things that a lot of organizations are talking about is they don't necessarily have a business case for wanting to use AI. They simply want to try it out, because if they've tried it, they get their hands on it, they can then work out in their own minds how it can be applied elsewhere in their business. That could simply be the end goal in the first stage.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then once you've kind of got that kind of little end goal defined, then you can start thinking about what are the most valuable opportunities within your organization. So every organization is different. Every organization will have big problems, small problems, big opportunities, small opportunities. So we've got a few examples here. You know, perhaps you've got loads of unstructured documents. Like we're talking to businesses who have got loads of claim forms or loads of feedback forms or loads of PDFs. Really common in lots of organizations to have lots of unstructured documents. And by this, I mean things that aren't in a database or in a spreadsheet, those types of things. So imagine if you could ask questions from all of those unstructured documents together, that would save you and your team time, wouldn't it? Another one might be asking questions about data without having a coder or an analyst, so you can get to it much quicker. And that's kind of a lot of what Nick's gone through today in terms of those demos and examples. Or again, we showed you an example of how can you get AI to do a specific task for your customers. So this becomes something new you can offer to your customers. And there's lots of other opportunities. The thing here is to think about your organization, how your commercial model works, where your problems and opportunities are, and therefore where could you start first to really show some value. And then working out, what's a practical plan, timeline, resource allocation and cost that you could assign to it. My recommendation on these things, I'm a big fan of time boxing, because otherwise these things can just go on, and doing proof of values. And I've done many projects over the years which have been really tightly time bound, say six weeks, 2 people, say 1 tech person to do the development and 1 commercial person to think about the use cases, and focused on 1 goal. And with the idea being that if you can prove some value in 6 weeks, then you'll win hearts and minds to go on to other things. And if you prove that there's no value in 6 weeks, then it was only 6 weeks. So that would be something I would recommend to you. Time box it, come up with a proof of value, prove or disprove that there's some value for your organization. So that's step 1. Step 2, once you've worked through that approach, then is thinking, well, what data are we going to include here? What are we going to focus on? So in most organizations, you'll have lots of different data in all different sources. So lots of organizations will have a financial system of some type, a customer system. You might have sales data, marketing data. You'll undoubtedly have internal data, but perhaps you use external data and public data, whether it's weather or exchange rates, or depending on what kind of sector you're in, government information perhaps. So you'll have all different data sources. Some of it will be structured in terms of numbers and databases. Some of it will be unstructured in terms of words and documents. So have a think about which are your priority data sources. Perhaps it's the data source that currently is just resting on your systems, doing nothing and not being used at the moment, perhaps. Or perhaps it's the most important data source. You can think about it from all different angles. The next question is thinking about permission. Do you have authority to use the data in the way that you're going to use it? Or do you need to anonymize that data or aggregate it in some way? Now, again, this depends what sector you're in, what your business model is in. You particularly have to be careful if you've got data that's around individuals. So this isn't a black or white area. This is something that needs a bit of exploring, but making sure you've got permission and authority to use the data, particularly when it's not your data. Can you use it in the way that you would like to? Next level, Nick kind of mentioned this earlier, data security is going to be really, really key for you. Unless you're doing something with public data and you're happy for everything to be public, you're going to want to make sure that you've got the right level of access controls, you've got permissions and protection of your data built in from the start. Particularly if you've got this personally identifiable data, you need to be much more careful around, and confidential payment information, for instance, or health data. You need to be much more careful with those types of data than if you've got public kind of data feed that you're using. But thinking about your security and making sure it's all locked down is really key. And then data quality, is it good enough? Is it going to be good enough to fulfill your use case? Does it need any preparation? Perhaps you've got data in multiple sources that needs to be combined first. Perhaps you already know there's gaps or other issues. So my view on this, in order to get started quickly and deliver value quickly, start with one data source first and choose one that you think is pretty clean and pretty ready to go, just so you're not spending your time on all the data preparation first. So next one, okay, you've got the strategy, you've got the data source selected. Now you need to look at selecting which AI tool you're going to want to look at. So firstly, you need to think of privacy. We've mentioned data security already, but when you're looking at the tool, is it going to be locked down enough for your organization? You need to be looking at where is your data going to be stored and processed and who's going to be accessing it. So you're going to need to have confidence that the level of privacy and security meets your requirements. That's going to be a key step. For instance, ChatGPT is public. You start putting things in there, you're effectively putting your data in the public eye. You then need to think about fit. There are thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of different AI tools on the market. In a webinar that we did last month, we showed you a diagram that showed them all that fitted into a machine learning AI data category. There's so many of them, it's ridiculous, and there's more coming out every day. So you need to be thinking which tool is going to be the right one for you and your specific use case. The next one, you want to be thinking of, okay, there's all these tools, and we're in such a bleeding edge market when it comes to particularly Gen AI and ChatGPT style technology. It's a lot of them are so new. Have they got enough adoption and usage, or are you going to be one of the early testers? And you might be okay with being an early tester, or you might want something that's a bit more proven. And then funding, you probably want to think about, well, how well funded is the tool and what's their probability of success? You know, we're in such a different environment at the moment. You know, you don't want to be forced to migrate, right? So if you're just doing a proof of value for 6 weeks, it probably doesn't matter. But if you want something with longevity, that's going to be key. So our recommendation right now is to go with Microsoft's OpenAI. It's at the moment, and it's such a changing landscape that perhaps next month we might say something different. But at the moment, we're more often than not choosing Microsoft OpenAI for our projects at DataCubed and for our client projects. So that's our recommendation today. But such a changing tech landscape, we all need to keep on top of it. And so you've got your AI strategy.
Hells, just to say there that at another event a couple of weeks ago, AI West, they were talking about this subject, and the open source AIs are way more advanced than anything else out there at the moment. So, and actually, if you went down the path of one and then wanted to switch to another, the step isn't that big to do. So it's not like you were having to totally invest and trying to extract yourself would be a real mission. It's actually quite easy to move from one to the other.
Great, thank you, Nick. I'm sure we can pick up some questions on that later. So next one, you've got your strategy, you've got your data source, you've chosen your tool. Now we call this stage play, right? Because we're very much in the R&D experimentation world with this type of technology. The demos that Nick showed you earlier showed different prompts or questions. Well, you need to kind of train your tool to understand the data connections within the data and the terminology you want to use. You know, if you're asking about customers, is the data set up in a way that it's going to be able to present information on customers or sectors or all sorts of regions, products? You need to make sure that you've prepared and trained your data and your tool to know the types of questions you want to ask. And then it's about play and experimentation and identifying the things that work and working out how to get the most of it. And having this innovation mindset as well. You know, we're thinking of this very much as a data interrogator, this kind of, you know, making us all superhuman type approach. And it's all about experimentation and trial and error. And the thing I mentioned it earlier or alluded to it earlier is, you know, with these proof of value projects, there is absolutely a risk that there is no value. And you may find out that actually you've played with something and it isn't enabling you to get this insight that you thought it would. You know, and I've put here, you know, prepare to fail, but you know, it's a massive learning, right? You have had some value from that because you've proved or disproved something can work. Our recommendation with this is that it's really important to not just have tech people on this, but not just have business or commercial people on this. Combining a business person with a tech person is where we get the best results to play together, so you get both of those different perspectives lined up. And then lastly, launching. So you've created this strategy, built this tool, you've played with it, you've got it working, you're really proud of it. How do you share that with your target audience? And let's say you're going to start sharing it internally first, and perhaps with your customers. So our recommendation is think about launching it differently, right? This is something that is intended to inspire and motivate and drive innovation. So don't just send out the usual email or do things in the usual way. Think about how you can launch things in a different way, perhaps using the technology to help you. An important part here is, train them. Don't just send them a link. Give them a demo, enable them to use it, handhold them, get them to, really embrace it and maximize it, and then go through a feedback loop. So talk to them, what's worked for them, what's been helpful. And the way that we found it to be the most valuable is positioning it as a prototype. Now, I'm sure we've all seen in the world prototypes that end up turning into the way the things that have been in place for 20 years, right? They start off as beta versions and end up being operational. So that could be where you end up here, or it could literally be a prototype that is disposed of and replaced at some point in future. But positioning things as a prototype and playing and experimenting with them is the mindset that we would encourage in this space. So hopefully that's given you some ideas of how you can get started and get going with a simple proof of value. So if you want some help from us, clearly we're here to help. There are a few ways that we can help you. Team lunch and learn. There's a load of jargon in this whole space. In the last webinar we did, for those of you who joined us, we did some jargon busting. If any of you missed that and want us to share our jargon busting kind of slide with you, let Nick or I know, and we'll get that over to you. But that could be something that we do with your team to get them to start kind of having ideas and showing them some demos and prompt them to come up with ideas of solutions. We're also running innovation and ideation workshops where we work with organizations to create and prioritize use cases. And we showed you lots of examples for C-suite and client ones earlier. So it's doing those that are much more specific to your organization. We are building proof of values, designing them and building them. We're building them for ourselves at DataCubed. We're really harnessing this technology to grow our business, and we're also doing that for our clients. So building a first secure lockdown prototype to prove the value on a specific use case. The next view is creating a roadmap, an AI strategy that should link to your data strategy, which should link to your business strategy, and making sure you've got a clear roadmap. And then we're also helping our clients in terms of getting them to turn that Gen AI prototype and enabling the internal team to be able to develop it further. So just some ways that we can help you if you wanted to call on us. And for those of you on the call, we have got a kind of special offer today. We've got a free team lunch and learn. So if you do want to take us up on this, drop us a line, either Nick, Helen, or I. We're happy to do a free team lunch and learn. We can do some jargon busting, we can share some demos and facilitate some idea generation amongst your team. So thank you ever so much for your time.
Oh, thank you very much, Nick and Hels. Super insightful, loads of ideas. I hope everyone's feeling inspired. I think there's been a couple of questions come through I'd love to sort of just address. John makes a really good point around the rubbish in, rubbish out still stands, which of course is completely relevant, and hopefully we've reiterated that in our content here today. And just before I start, actually, there's a final poll I wanted to share with you, just to sort of understand what you see being the biggest opportunity with AI. It'd be really interesting to understand that. So let me just launch that for you. Not sure that's coming through, but yeah, so your biggest opportunity when it comes to AI. So drop it into the chat. We'd love to know what you think it is. Is it driving innovation and increasing product development? Is it optimizing decision-making processes? Is it enhancing customer experience, improving operational efficiency, or reducing costs? Or is it something else? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and what you think the biggest opportunity is. Cool. And then looking at the other comments and feedback we've had today. So can you give some examples of tools out there for structuring data? Hels, one for you maybe?
Yeah, I don't quite know what you mean by that, John. Maybe you can ask a follow-up question in the chat there. I presume you don't mean kind of for structuring data. Do you mean for accessing structured data? I'm not quite sure what you mean, whether you mean kind of database, data warehouse, data lakehouse type solutions, or whether you mean something different. Maybe you can ask a follow-up question. I can make sure I answer that correctly.
Yeah, let's come back to that one. And then Andrew, I think we touched on this, Nick, but is it easy to change AI tool?
So So I'm not a technical person, but I've been told by people that are that yes, it is. And they fundamentally work in quite similar ways. Using the open source ones are the most advanced AIs that are out there, but you can quite easily extract yourself and move sideways into another one if it's not serving the purposes that you need it to. We can help navigate that, or rather our technical people can.
So just to follow up on John's comment there, Hal, so Nick said that there were lots of tools out there for structuring data. I appreciate there's also a massive number of tools out there, as we all know, but I guess that's kind of part of starting to pin down what it is you want to get from it.
Yeah, Nick, do you want to pick up on that?
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Just the fact that you said there was lots of tools out there for structuring data. Are there too many to mention here?
I mean, the list. If you see the screen, we have got a screen on the tools that are around this whole subject, and it's each logo is like 1 pixel size. There are so many that it really does, and there are lots and lots of available tools. So that's the bottom line. But the point is that it really does depend upon your own needs. So at DataCube, we consider ourselves to be sort of tech agnostic. So we take your needs as an organization, and then we'll work out the best architecture of systems that will deliver what you're after.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I'm gonna find the link, and I'll put the link in the channel for you, John, and for other people on the call. I'll just see if I can Google that and find it for you.
Great. And then another one, sort of Wilfred asking if you can move training provided from one AI to another.
Sorry, say this again, Helen.
If you can move the training that you've provided from one AI to another.
Can you move it?
Yeah, so once you've trained the model, can you move that from one to the other?
So the principles are the same, but what the training of the data does, it organizes the data, and the prompts are through the AI, but the training is a two parts of the same coin. It's the tool itself and the way that you're organizing the data behind the scenes. So you'd have to retrain, but it's not an onerous job.
Thank you. And yes, we will be sharing the slide deck, Kevin, so that's no problem. We can share that with you, no worries at all. And Andrew would like to know how easy it is to drop the AI tool into your data and it will self-map.
It does require training, doesn't it, Nick?
Yes.
You know, it requires that prompt engineering. I mean, I guess it depends on the data and how obvious it is. But if you think about it, Andrew, like sometimes there are databases that the column headings are not obvious. Like it might not say customers, it might say CUSTR _new or something. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure we've also seen databases where the column headings and row headings aren't obvious. And then it's that type of thing where you need to prep the data and ensure it's mapping together, ensure the terminology is right, and those types of things.
And there's also the concept of large language models, which is using the entire, you know, in our case, English language to help navigate this. But there are small language models as well, which are much more sort of contained and a lot less in processing power and a lot cheaper to run. But the training would be contained. It would actually be a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of other questions is kind of, what is the biggest opportunity that you guys see with AI? Open to Nick and Hels.
Okay. Do you want to go first, Hels?
I see it too. I think internally, I think my vision is that we'll still have dashboards, I believe. I don't believe the age of dashboards are dead, because I think we all like being presented with facts that stop us having to think, what questions do we have to ask? So I think I can imagine a world where dashboards will still have their place, but almost on the right hand side, I'm being very specific, on the right hand side of every dashboard, there'll be a data interrogation Q&A function that you can ask questions on demand as well. So I think it will become this normal thing. I think we'll all have them on our laptops, that we can just ask questions about our business on a little kind of chat tool, just like we would now with ChatGPT, and that will become a norm working internally, that we'll have these things on demand. I think I can see that's my internal vision, that it just becomes the way that we do things in future. Client facing, I think we're already as kind of customers, you know, whilst we're all business people on this call, we're all equally consumers and customers, and our expectations as consumer and customers are changing and improving all of the time, aren't they? You know, I think we will all demand a similar service from everyone we buy from, everyone we work with. So I think the customer interfaces that we're all using and we all provide to our customers will need to radically improve in order to align with our increasing customer expectations. That's my view. What about you, Nick?
So I would somewhat echo your first point on, so I see this as almost like, I have it in my head of you doing a job with a little thing on your shoulder that is giving you every piece of information you could possibly need to do your job really, really well. And it's just at the push of a button. If it's all set up, it has got the ability to superhuman us in terms of our brains and the ability to you know, we all are limited, some better than others, at what we can retain in our head at any given point. But having this thing on the side plugging you into everything that you need to know is going to be so powerful, so powerful. But I also think that on the very flip side is processes and automation within an organization. It's the mundane stuff that is often a distraction to organizations. It's everybody has those weeks where I just didn't get to do anything on my task list because I was just dealing with all this stuff. It's that stuff that could disappear, and so you can focus on the things that are more progressive. And for me, that's super exciting.
And this may link into the final question that we've just got time for, is about that adoption. How do we get our teams excited about this? How do we make sure it runs through the organization? So is it making their jobs easier? But what else is there to consider?
So just to jump in, so first thing is to try and knock the scaremongering on the head, and make it inspiring. But also don't try to run before you can walk. So as Hel said, pick a single use case, get it done in just a very short period of time, demonstrate its value, but don't set expectations so high on day one that it's going to set up to fail. But I think a lot of people are worried about the future. And worries and concerns often disappear when their knowledge goes up. So enlightening them about the potentials of AI for the future is probably a good way of helping them embrace it.
Great, thank you very much. Well, thank you so much to our speakers, to our audience. It's been great to see you all here today. There'll be future events coming up to sort of help you continue to navigate through data and AI, and we'll be sure to let you know about those, so watch this space. Thanks again for your time. Have a great day, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So